You're saying that you haven't made a single payment since September, but they should not be charging you at all?
I had to actually call the police because I got up at he told me he couldn't get a receipt.
All right, so Mr. Ferris, you can go ahead and present your case.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to call my witness, Mr. Darius Martin.
Okay.
And Your Honor, can I share screen here? That'd be the best way to do it?
Yes.
Okay.
You're fine.
Mr. Can you please state your name? Mr. Martin.
Oh, yeah, it's Martin.
And what is your position with the property?
APM Assistant Property Manager.
And are you familiar with Mr. Bright?
I am.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to share a document here. Can you see this document?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Bright, do you recognize this document? Mr. Martin, do you recognize this document? Oh, I said the wrong name. I apologize.
Yeah. I was trying to blow it up.
Can everyone see it?
Yes. Mr. Martin, can you see this document?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Martin, do you recognize this document?
Yeah, I recognize it. I mean, it looks like a lease agreement.
Mr. Martin.
This is Mr. Martin. Mr. Bright, he's asking his witness questions. He'll have a chance in a moment, okay? Okay. All right, Mr. Bright, can you put yourself back on mute, and I'll let you unmute yourself as soon as it's your turn, okay? All right.
Mr. Martin, you recognize this document?
I do.
Can you tell me what this document purports to be?
This is a lease agreement from November 2022, expiring on October 2023. And it breaks down the rental charges as well as the additional fees.
And who is this lease agreement with?
Mario Bright.
Okay. And are these, it appears to be signed, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd like to submit this document as a first piece of evidence for the lease.
All right. We'll call that P1. Mr. Bright, do you have any legal objections to the admission of P1? This is legal objections.
I do object because that's not his signature, and he was not an employee here doing this lease agreement 11/1/22.
Okay. Well, you can testify about it in a minute, but in terms of legal objections, do you have any legal objections to this?
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. P1 is admitted.
Okay. Mr. Martin, do you recognize this document?
Yes, it's a ledger. Yes.
Okay. And is this a document that you keep in the regular course of your business?
Yes, sir.
And are the amounts updated regularly as they come due?
Correct.
Yes. Your Honor, I'd like to mark this as plaintiff's evidence P2.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bright, again, any legal objections to this? You can testify about it later if you feel like you need to, but legal objections.
No.
Mr. Martin, I would like to go through this with you. Let me know if I need to scroll up or down or anything. But could you tell me the last time that Mr. Bright's ledger was at 0 or negative?
Yes, sir. So the last time Mr. Bright ledger was at a 0 current balance was January 1st, 2023.
Okay. And the balance was 214.28, negative 214.28 on that date?
That is correct.
And from that date, when was the next payment ever received on behalf of Mr. Bright's account?
The last payment, well, the next payment after January 1st, we're going to be looking at March 6th, 2023 for the amount of $32.17.72, which was applied through DCA for rental assistance.
Okay. And that left a balance of how much on his account?
At that time, March 6th, we was at $135.
And then from there, were there any more payments made on behalf of the account?
There was. So from March 6, 2023, we go through April, May, June, July, August. No payment was made. September 19th, 2023, a payment was made in the amount of $5,566.97, which was made again once through DCA. and that was the last payment on this account.
Your Honor,
Hold on, but you can ask him questions about his testimony as soon as he's done, okay?
okay.
Mr. Barton, on the 19th there, on September 19th, 2023, what was the remaining balance after that payment had been processed?
After that payment was processed on the 19th, it left a balance of $2,495.23.
Do you have any knowledge of that payment being intended to zero out the account to make him come current?
The $5,000 payment?
Yes.
That $5,000 payment was basically backdated from July, but the time that DCA brought the check in September, he had incurred additional fees for the month of August and September, which the day when that payment was made, I informed DCA as well as Mr. Bright of the remaining balance on the account, which he understood, which he had promised to make a payment and come into the office to pay, but payment was never made outside of the DCA check.
And has any payment been received since September 19th?
No payment has been made on the account since September 2023.
So as of today, where we stand through the end of May, what is the amount that's due on the account?
Currently, the amount is $12,290.23.
And for each month, can you break down the charges that are applied to the account?
Yes, sir. So his regular residential rent, $1,009. He has liability insurance, which is $50. Trash, $5. Trash, $10. Pest control, $5. And then his water and sewer is $55.
Are there any late fees?
There are late fees, which he incurred for unpaid funds, which is $100 as well.
Okay.
The monthly rent is 109.
1,009.
Okay. Okay.
And Your Honor, those are the only questions for my witness at this time.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Bright, if you'd like to unmute, please. You may need to share your screen again, Mr. Ferris, just in case Mr. Bright wants to.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Bright,
prepared.
this is not your opportunity to testify just yet. This is your chance. So, Mr. Martin has just done testifying. If you have any questions for Mr. Martin, you can ask them now. Again, make them questions. Again, keeping in mind that you can talk about your side of the story in a moment. But if you have any questions for Mr. Martin, you can go ahead and ask them now.
Okay, what month did you say you received the $5,500?
You're muted, sir.
September 2023. The payment was applied September 19th, 2023.
Okay.
You, Mr. Bright, you are muted. If you're saying anything, we can't hear you.
What month did you start employment with Fillmore Property?
That was August the 14th, 2020.
2020?
2023.
So anything before you started working there, working here, basically you can't testify to anything on the ledger, whether it was put incorrectly, whether payments were partially made, some months wasn't put in, and the people that was before you did everything correctly. You can't really testify to that because, I mean, you just started in August. So anything before you started.
Objection, Your Honor. He's not asking a question here.
Yeah, you gotta ask questions, Mr. Bright.
Asking anything before you started in August that you just read through the whole ledger, you can't testify that that's 100% accurate, can you?
Based on our matrix beginning, this is accurate. Any discrepancies, we ask any residents to bring to our attention. At the time when payment was 566, there was no attest to the balance on the account at that time. And that was September 2023.
And when you say attest, what do you mean by that?
basically if there's any discrepancies within the ledger or the amount that's currently owed at that time.
Okay. Um, okay. So, I mean, I have more questions. I don't know if this is the time, Your Honor. I don't know,
There is no other time, so
that, yeah, it's not directly to him. It's just about the case itself. So I didn't know if this was the correct time to do that.
Unless you have any other questions for him, this is your chance to ask him questions. If you don't have any more questions for him,
Okay.
we'll move on.
No, we'll move on. We're good.
Okay. All right. So do you have any other witnesses, Mr. Cohen?
Mr. Ferris, Your Honor.
Sorry. Sorry about that.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to call Mr. Bright.
Mr. Bright. Okay. All right. Mr. Bright, Mr. Ferris is going to ask you some questions. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Bright, can you tell me the last time that you paid rent?
The last time that rent was paid was the $5,500 check.
And at what time was that paid?
You said what time or what date?
What date?
Okay, hold on one second. I believe he testified. I believe they said that it was on the 9th month, but it was actually paid on the 8th month. But let me make sure. It was applied on the 19th of September, but the check was held.
What's the matter? I was just on the damn, I'm still on court or whatever.
Mr. Bright, you're back on mute.
Yeah, the check, it was paid in August.
And Mr. Bright, when was the last payment you made before that check?
Before that check, I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure the date. I didn't know I was having a hearing today, so I didn't know we were having like actually a court appearance, so I don't have everything in front of me right now. But I know for a fact the ledger does not reflect my correct payment history. It does not.
So you're saying that you do not know when you made a payment before that check in September?
I mean, I could guess. I can totally tell you, hey, I made the payment what date, exact time, unless I'll be just speculating. But I have it before that.
Anything else, Mr. Cohen? Oh my God, I did it again, Mr. Ferris. I keep saying Cohen right there. Sorry about that.
And Mr. Bright, you haven't attempted to make any other payments since then?
Well,
since September when you made the check payment?
Well, the September payment was an overpayment. It was the payment in September should have taken care of balances going forward as far as months going forward. That was not cleared up with me. I could not get a receipt on that to move forward. And that's why I have retained from paying anything further, because I was not given a receipt, ledger, or anything showing my balances that were current, or that my check was even received. The first time I've heard my check was received actually and on my ledger is today, when you told me today that you see that it was received, because I was denied that.
So you don't have any documents or anything, or do you have any documents
I do
or
not.
anything saying that?
I came from after After that check was received, I don't have any documents after that. I have requested and I have not received it.
Do you have anything that says that that check was to pay off your entire balance at the time?
The actual court papers that were previous court papers that were filed were 2,000, I believe it was almost $3,000, and the check was 5,500. The courts, I mean, they accepted it because it paid out my balance. That's why they had to refile again, because they honored my balance. The agency that paid my check, they brought it in person to make sure that they wasn't going to pay money and I still get evicted. That was the purpose of them going in person. I never paid the check myself, never gave anybody any money. They went in and did that and handled that with Mr. Darius.
But do you have anything, was there an order in court or anything that says that amount would go to pay off your entire balance?
I have the court papers with the balance on it. The court papers with the balance on it showing that $5,500 is over the amount that the courts asked me to pay at that time. At that time, it would have paid me up. I would have had a balance going forward of credit. I asked for a receipt for that, and I was denied a receipt, and they held my check for another month and told me that I got owed $300 at the time. And when I paid the $300, that's when they applied a check. I had to go to the courthouse to get a stamp on the receipt that the agency gave me of the check for the courts to honor it. And that was a month.
I'm looking at, so Mr. Bright, you don't dispute the fact that you owe rent, correct? You're just saying you may not owe as much as they're saying. Is that correct?
I don't. Yes. And I'm actually, Your Honor, I'm actually moving. I just don't want to be stuck with,
let me,
extra balance.
I'm just looking at this, see if I can find the case closed.
Yeah, and see that case that was closed is added in on this new case.
I'm not seeing any actual agreement. I mean, they must have paid it because clearly they paid it something on the ledger, but like, I was just looking at the rental assistance application from the old. Okay. All right. So Mr. Bright, let me just ask you this. Again, understanding you don't have any documentation about what you're saying today. Okay. How much are you saying they're off by? Admitting that you haven't made a payment since September. There's been no payments at all made since September of 2023. How much are you saying their number is?
Well, if you look, okay, I'm just going to put it like, Your Honor, the $5,500 was when I went to court. I don't have the original court document, but I do have the court document right here where my balance.
Just tell me how much you think you owe. They think you owe $12,000, and it's looking like, based on the ledger, it looks like you probably do owe $12,290.23. How far off? I'm assuming you would have figured out that what number how far off you think they are. How far off do you think they are?
January to.
You're saying that you haven't made a single payment since September, but they should not be charging you at all from that time frame?
And Your Honor, to be honest, it may be a portion of December, but if my balance was at like $2,000, you got a $5,500 check, my rent is $1,000, that would have paid me up a couple months. I should never.
You're saying you haven't made you said earlier you haven't made a payment since September, or on your behalf. Like DCA paid and like they credited it in December. They said you had a balance owed. You said you didn't. But that's $2,000. Okay. You haven't made a payment ever since then. So you can't, how do you justify, like, I mean, that's a lot of months gone by, and you're saying you don't owe it?
When the payments were made in September, it took care of, I should have taken care of October and November because it was over the amount. That's what I'm saying. I only owe
Okay, so
$2,000.
so that's at most $4,000, and then you still owe December all the way to today, even based on what you're saying.
Yes, and I've
Okay.
asked for documentation. They help. I don't even owe the late fees for that because
I mean, I don't see the consent. I mean, normally in these rental assistance things, you can see the consent agreement where they say they're going to pay X and then they're going to pay the 2 future months and whatever, but that's not in here. They clearly paid something, but
yeah,
you know,
and
so
Your
Mr.
Honor,
So Mr. Brown, I'm just saying that you clearly owe, even by your own admission, you owe a lot of rent, right?
Yeah, I know. I definitely owe from this. I've definitely not paid anything this year due to the situation that's going on. Not just that I want to just stay
Okay.
here for,
Okay.
I communication with the office and the numbers. I have not been able to get the numbers
Okay.
correct. Things like that.
Okay. All right. All right, Mr. Bright, is there anything? Okay, so Mr. Ferris, did you have any other questions for Mr. Bright?
Those are my only questions at the time, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Bright, is there anything you want to say that we haven't already covered?
Well,
we've already covered it. We don't need to hear it again if we've already covered it, but whatever you want to say at this point on your own behalf, this is your chance to testify.
Well, Your Honor, the reason why the payment started being delinquent is because when I went into the office to get an actual receipt, to see where I stand, a ledger, to see what was what. I had never met Mr. Darius before. I met the other agent or whatever, Aaron. So, I was asking him, I said, can I get a receipt? She just left the check here. All I need is a paper receipt or anything, just showing where I stand. And he told me he couldn't give me a receipt. I said, so you have $5,500. I can't even get a receipt. I can't get documentation. So the documentations and everything that you're asking for, I went and asked for. He didn't.
They gave you credit for the five. I mean, it's on the ledger. They gave you credit for it, $5,566.97. That's on there. They credited it on your account. They're not charging you for that.
But Your Honor, I'm just seeing that today. I had to actually call the police. I have a police report because I got up he told me he couldn't get a receipt. I went to proceed to the back to talk to the leasing manager, and he got up and pushed me back. And I'm like, why are you putting don't put your hands on me. I didn't touch you. If you can't give me a receipt, these people are leaving you $5,500. And I want to just have proof so I know what to pay going forward. Your Honor, when that was paid on the 8th month, a whole month later, they still had my check on the desk. They didn't give me any kind of receipt a whole month later. I had to go to the courthouse with the receipt from the agency of the check, and the clerk of court stamped it and said, if they receive your check, they have to apply it. They had a right to deny it, but they cannot owe your money.
They did apply it.
No, they got it the 8th month. They held it for a month, Your Honor.
Okay, but they gave you credit for it. And if you didn't make any other payment, if other things became due in the meantime, you would still owe that.
I know it, but it's just the fact that it was just like, why would I do any more money? And you're not even communicating, giving me a receipt or a ledger of balance, if it's a balance, a receipt of payment, if it's a payment, so it was that kind of situation, Your Honor. It was not that, it was a whole month drawn out that he took the check and did not apply it and did not give me a receipt that he did or did not apply.
Okay.
So it's just like the money is just there. So it's like, I don't know where to go, where to start, where to begin, what's paid, what's what.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Mr. Bright?
That's it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Ferris, do you have any other questions or any other evidence? You are muted, sir.
Your Honor, that's it.
Okay. All right. So I've listened to all the evidence on both sides. I don't see any evidence presented by Mr. Bright that would offset the amount owed that the plaintiff presented. So I will issue a judgment in the amount of $12,290.23. There will be a writ of possession available 7 days from today's date, which is 11:59 p.m. on June 4th. So that will be the order of the court. Unless anybody has any questions, you are all free to go.
And Your Honor, may I ask that the clause for amendments be included with the judgment as well? So that if there's an amendment, the clause for the amendments, I mean, not amendments, apologies, for appeals be included as well, so that if there's an appeal, he has to pay to the registry.
There's an appeal for the Okay. All right. All right. Unless anybody else, like I said, unless there's any other questions, Mr. Bright, Mr. Ferris, was that your last case?
Your Honor, we have the other case where there was already a consent.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So Mr. Martin, you're free to go. Mr. Bright, you are free to go. Let me check on that other one. Okay. The other one is just the writ. It's already,
So
I think you guys already, Judge Williams had dismissed, she wouldn't, the previous writ was denied. I don't see, it looks like new information was settled. I think it looks okay. But otherwise there's a new writ in the file.